It's Teacher Appreciation Day, week, year. I don't know what Oz. This is Osvaldo Gomez. Hey, Osvaldo, welcome.
Good to be here, boys. Good to be here. Always good to be here.
And we have Ruben in the room as well, Osvaldo. We don't want to forget him.
In the corner of a bookstore, I think.
In the corner of a bookstore.
Ozzy was sort of clapping back on my background. I just don't know what to do. I have a painting. I'm not artistic. And
you're doing good, man. You're doing good.
Am I doing good? I'm trying.
Maybe a little plant over your over your base, something.
Hold on.
Okay. Oh wow. Look what I started.
You come in and you start making changes, Ozzy.
You know,
you're gonna start telling us about our attitudes. Maybe one of us needs to change their attitude a little bit. I don't know.
You know what, Ozzy? I need to get a wife because I know you have one, and it's changed your. I bet you would have suggested.
You honestly think this is me? This is not me at all.
Oh man. You know what though, Oz, you're looking good. I feel like as you get age, you're just getting more stunning.
I don't know. You see this right here? Look. I don't know about that, man.
Lordy. I can show you things like that all over.
Oh, the image I just got in my head, Jacob. Just start
the audience is like, fast forward.
Start the discussion, Jacob.
All right, I'm sorry. Hey, Oz, as you know, we're talking about appreciating teachers these next few days, and you know, with you, is there a teacher that just had how do I say it, a impact in your life?
You look back and you do, names do pop up, and then you kind of mentally go back and you have these teachers' faces in mind. Some of them you don't even remember their names, but I'd have to say, like, the most impactful teachers I've had, really kind of a handful, and the one that stands out the most was my 8th grade English teacher, Mr. Kate. And I think I remember him the most because he was like an old hippie. And he really kind of tried to enliven the class as much as he possibly could. He brought in music, he brought in poetry. I remember one time he tried to distinguish the difference between the left and the right. And he says, I'm going to be out for the next 2 days. Your substitute tomorrow is going to be Mr. New Left. And the substitute after that is Mr. Old Right. And it was him, because we walked out of there as 8th graders thinking, oh, we're not going to see our teacher for the next 2 days. But it was him, but in character. And New Left he came in with this like open kind of hippie thing with and he was just all like about cool and just like it's chill. The next day, Mr. Old Right comes in a business suit and stern, just like to the point. No, you cannot. It's all business. And then the day after that, he comes in, it's like, how are your subs? And it's like, yeah, it was you. I was like, no, it wasn't. And I
hate Mr. Right.
He stayed in character, that guy, right? But little things like that honestly, as a teacher now, I don't think I'm courageous enough to do that. But that man was, and that stays with you, it stays with you,
That is so cool.
The students really appreciate that kind of effort made to teach a lesson.
Okay, well, let me push back on that point a little bit, Ruben, because the other day, last week, I was going through TikTok, which is AKA time swallower, because it just swallows up all your time. But there was this teacher that came up, and she made this point. She said, all of the things that I used to do before the pandemic that used to wow my class doesn't seem to work anymore. Like, the kids aren't being wowed anymore, and I don't know what to do. So, and that kind of hit me, because like, I know I used to kind of bring the magic, right? That's the phrase. You used to bring the magic as much as you can. But even now, like, it's just not, there's just something, it's like kind of not hitting the mark. And I wonder, it leaves me in a place like, what do I need to do now as a teacher to kind of give these kids that level of interest that they kind of once had?
That's heavy. That's deep, because now we have to start thinking like, hey, we need to have that little paradigm shift. Now we have this different type of kid in front of us. Now what do we do? That's a tough one. And I agree with you. Kids are, they seem just a little bit, I don't want to use the word different because that's so simple, but they are, they're expecting, I think maybe expecting a little more. Maybe TikTok has affected them. Maybe all those gadgets have, they're wanting to, be entertained differently.
So. I mean, it's there was a what was that? There was like an article in the New York Times about that. I don't know if you guys saw about that NYU professor. He was a professor of organic chemistry, and he's been teaching it for decades. But after the pandemic, the students actually raised a petition against him because he was too difficult. And the kids just thought the class was too difficult. And he's like, I've been doing this for decades, and yet this is the first time students have actually come back with this. And his critique is that it happened especially after the pandemic, that the kids were coming back not only not studying for his class, but not knowing how to study. And that was weird for him, you know. So his class was always, he said he considered his class one of the most difficult because organic chemistry, it was like a gateway class to med school.
Sure.
So he's like, I am the gatekeeper, because if you're not going to do well in my class, you're not going to do well in med school. But the kids just kind of riled up against him, and I think NYU ended up letting him go.
Oh man.
As for sadly, but I don't know, just that kind of made me think of what you just said. Like something is different. I'm not saying the kids are different. Maybe the times are different. Maybe it's technology. Maybe it's some kind of form of PTSD, or I don't know, man. Our job is weird now, you know. And I try to kind of conjure up the spirit of Mr. Kate in me, and all these other teachers that have kind of wowed me throughout the years. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, you know, as all of us can attest.
Here's our advantage though, maybe, Ozzy. I think the content we teach, you and I, is an advantage because it kind of lends itself to a lot of different formats, approaches, content. We can experiment a little bit. Don't you see that? Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not a and Jake, I'm gonna speak to your content, Jake, and tell me if I'm wrong. But
okay.
I would imagine that like a social studies teacher, a science teacher, a math teacher, the content in their classroom is very specific. It's very facts based, and it's like, you know, 2 + 2 = 4. The Civil War happened, and that's it. Whereas with an English teacher, there's really no set roadmap. You know, we kind of have a little bit more of autonomy and freedom to kind of make our class what we like. And that can be good, and that can be frightening too, because if you don't know what to do with that freedom, it can go sour, you know.
Right. No, I see what you're saying.
A new teacher might say, I don't like this autonomy. Can you give me exactly the semester on what to teach? But it can be frightening. I think as a new, you know, you've come to a point in your career. This is my 24th year teaching. You come a point into your career where you kind of know what works for you and what you like. But then you kind of see these newer teachers coming in, and they want that structure. They want that stability. Give me the textbook. I'm going to go unit 1, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Yeah. And I remember being like that. And that's fine. And I think you need that structure. But once you kind of get the hang of this business, you can kind of let go of that. You know, I really do not like touching my textbook at all. I just
neither do I. I don't have it at all in my book. It's all, if they're gonna do it, it's at night, not in my classroom. You know,
how is that for you as social studies though? Like, because again, going back to like, I thought social studies would be like almost like chronological.
It is chronological, but you're able to give your, you know, like there's different ways of looking at reconstruction, or, you know, there's different theories on why it didn't work entirely, right, or why it went a certain way, correct? And so you're able to give those different arguments. And you know what, when you were sharing that though, it also hit my head that, you know what, students, yes, they're different, but teachers have to be, and you are willing to change with it. But sometimes we get into the profession. I know I have some colleagues, you know, that you get to a point where it's hard to make that shift with the kids. Like there's sometimes recently, there's a couple of lessons that don't work. I'm like, man, but am I willing to still, hey, I'm going to keep doing it? Or am I willing to say, you know what, I better change here, you know? And that's what I've been doing lately. I've been changing a lot more. I think I've changed a lot more this year than any other year, saying I can't do that anymore. Just the kids don't enjoy it. You know, the kids don't like that activity.
Do you think it has to be part of, like, do you think, I would think like it has to come from the teacher though, like, right?
It does.
I mean, it's, and the older we get, you know, there's that, one of a family friend said that the older we get, the more we get. And the more is whatever it is that we originally are, right? The older we get, the more we get. And some teachers, just because they're human beings, they just don't want to change. Because how hard is change really? Like, how hard is it for you to change something that you think you've been doing for decades plus? Just in general, you know,
Sure.
it's a difficult thing.
It's not easy.
But
My wife tells that to me all the time. Why don't you change? But you know, but it is difficult.
We can edit that part out. Otherwise, I have a couch. I have a couch over here you can sleep on, Jake.
Usually we cut a lot of stuff I say. So but hey, Ozzy, before we forget, I wanted to share this with you, and I shared this with Ruben, that this summer, you just kind of change subject for a moment. This summer, you were putting together a library. Can you let us know, and the audience know, how did that go? And then we'll end with that.
It was, so I've been, you know, again, this is my 23rd, 24th year teaching. And there was a moment in my teaching career where I was kind of getting the hang of it. And I realized that I need to provide these kids that generally don't read with just some general high interest books. I'm not going to bring in, you know, Moby Dick and Charles Dickens, wonderful books as they are, because the kids simply are not going to read them. So I need to bring in books that they want to read. And I was starting to do that for a while, but then a certain teacher, Jacob Aguilar, left, and he left me the Health Academy lead at our teacher. So that was a complete new role for me that took me a couple of years to figure out. But I think I'm now in a position where I'm kind of back in that headspace, especially now coming back from distance learning. Like, how do I get these kids reading and interested in reading? So what I decided to do, I remember going back, you know, a decade ago, saying like, I actually had some kids reading some because they were interested in the books. So I went to Amazon, I made a wish list, and I, you know, I had my Amazon tab open, and then my great young adult books website open too. And I was just kind of adding, reading and adding. And I just put it out there on Facebook. And I said, look, this is what I want to do in my class. And if you guys want to donate 1, 2, 5, 10 bucks, I'd be much appreciated. Most of them don't cost more than 10 bucks. And just the amount of support that I got, I think I got every book on my list. They went through the whole list, and it was great. So now it became real to me. Like, okay, dude, this is what you want to do. Like, people are backing you up. Don't let them down. So over the summer, I read a book, 180 Days by Kelly Gallagher and Penny Kittle. And they kind of mentioned doing that. They had this thing called a reading speed dating, book speed dating. So I had to explain what speed dating is to the kids, which they thought was fascinating. Like, people actually do that? It's like, yes, you sit down, you talk for 5-10 minutes, a bell rings, you switch, and then you talk.
Nice.
They thought that was kind of weird and gross, but they're kids, right? So I said, you're going to do that with these kids. I took a stack of 5 or 6 books and I put them in every table. I said, you're going to look at the cover, you're going to flip it over, you're going to read the back that usually gives you a little gist about it, and then open up to the first page and read the first 2-3 sentences to see if the language is something you can, you know, and if you like it, you know, you have your notebook, just put the name of the title and the author, so the books you're interested in. We spent about an hour speed dating, and at the end of it, everyone managed to have at least 5-6 novels on their notebook. And I just kind of randomly chose names, and they went to go grab the book they were interested in. And that was a month and a half ago, about 5 weeks ago. They're still reading it. They're loving it. I start every 15 minutes of my class is silent reading. And I usually keep it. There's always going to be those kids that are going to fake read, always, you know. But in a class of 30, that's maybe 1 or 2, because I'm looking at all the tables, and every week, every day they're there. I'm looking to see like where here they are, right? Like, if you're still like over here, then I know you're fake reading. It's not happening. But a lot of them right now are at least like right there. And that tells me that that's working. And an additional component to that, you can't just leave them alone and go read. You have to have a really quick check-in once every other week, once every 3 weeks. Hey, how's it going? Tell me about the book. Really? What's that? Okay, I'm gonna, and as they're talking to you, I'm just taking like really quick notes on the side, so that next time I come around, I say, oh, you know, last time you were mentioning that it was a boy and a girl, there were different cultures, and there might be a romantic thing. Well, how's that going out so far? So checking in with them lets me know that a lot of them are reading and they're enjoying what they're reading, and it's great, you know. Like, if they can walk out of my classroom with that notion, like, I finished a book, like, that's great, man. If they don't have any fear walking into a Barnes and Noble after this, I did my job, brothers.
Oh yeah. Wow, what a great strategy. What a great thing you've done in that classroom. And thanks for sharing that with us. And,
I hope that's my Mr. Kate moment for somebody.
Oh, I think it will be.
Like,
for sure.
Mr. Gomez reading that book in Mr. Gomez's class or something. I don't know.
Well, Well, listen, brother, we are very grateful that you came on the podcast, and we know we'll see you again in the future. And thank you. And Ruben, anything else before we leave?
No, I think I want to mention that Ozzy stated that he went to see, or you read the book by Callie Gallagher called 180 Days.
Yes.
And it sounds like a useful tool for you in terms of strategies. And he mentioned speed dating for books, not for the other thing, but for books. And you put these in the corner. I just thought that was excellent. I wanted to just remind people what you mentioned, because that sounds great.
Yeah, if you're a teacher, if you're an ELA teacher, 180 Days, it's a great great book. No plug in here. He's not paying me. He should though, but
maybe we will get a couple dimes. Hey. But with that, thank you, and have a good one. Bye-bye.